Hi, today we have on Nicolas Queisser, the fearless sales leader at Separations, and he's going to share with us the recent insights that he gained from being at the illumina Genomics Forum in San Diego. Welcome, Nicolas.
Thanks, Jeff. It's really great to be on board, and I'm delighted to be speaking with you today.
Awesome. And now I know you saw some exceptional global speakers at the Genomics Forum from Illumina. What was, they were all out there talking about their excitement for the future of genomics. In your view, what was really the most inspiring from the presentations and the speakers?
Well, look, I mean, the forum was really geared towards healthcare and shaping the landscape. I think that traditionally we've always been very reactive in healthcare. And I think in most people's lives, the case is the same. People need an incident before they quit smoking or, turn to good habits. And it's no different in healthcare that we're very reactive to disease. This forum was all about preventing disease, picking up on it at early stages, and actually shaping your health from a very early age to live as long and as healthy a life as possible. There were a lot of big guns there, people from all over the world, anything from Australia, Singapore, all through Europe, Africa. The whole world was represented, and some powerful companies, 23andMe, and you name it, they were all there. Everyone was represented, and it was extremely exciting to be amongst such peers of high repute.
Awesome. I mean, you even had guest speakers from Bill Gates to Barack Obama. It was really a go-to event for anyone in the scientific community in genomics.
Well, absolutely, Jeff. I mean, you talk about celebrities. Absolutely. That was, I was in awe. I was a little bit starstruck, if I have to be honest. First and foremost, Francis Arnold, who won the Nobel Prize for a CRISPR-based cure for sickle cell anemia. I think that's a really relevant one for the African population because sickle cell anemia is prevalent in African genomes more so than any other population group. So it gives great hope to the advancement of medicine. Barack Obama, he talked about shaping healthcare to advance medical care. He discussed his experiences as president of America, but said, this is a problem that is global and that we need to address it all as a collective. Bill Gates came to the fore and was highlighting the importance of research in order to cure disease and how his foundation is increasing their spend by 50% in the next year. It's incredible to hear that, this guy as a philanthropist has been donating over $6 billion per year to research for infectious disease. And now he's found a vehicle to increase that spend to $9 billion a year. So I think that was really amazing and gives a lot of hope to researchers in Africa gaining access to those kind of funds to really make a big difference in dealing with pathogens that really plague our continent quite badly. And then last but not least was Chris Evert, the famous tennis star, who was talking about the importance of genomics in cancer treatment and early detection. And in fact, how a comprehensive panel and a targeted BRCA test had actually saved her own life. Sadly taken her sister's, but saved her life. And that was really thanks to genomics. So yeah, it was power and very exciting. And, I think we want to bring these advancements to South Africa and Africa as quickly as we possibly can. It's super important.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously, the big news out of the event was the unveiling of the NovaSeq X, which obviously sets a whole new standard for the international genomics community. What was the reaction from people seeing this new NovaSeq X in the market and effectively being available?
Wow, geez, yeah, I almost get goosebumps when you talk about it. It was a really emotional experience. I think, first and foremost, people were excited, right? Truly revolutionary, this technology that is set to change the face of genomics going forward. Then the anticipation, right? Everyone wants to get their hands on the platform and transform their own businesses and their own research with the possibilities that it provides. And then also, relief, because this new platform and the chemistries that come with it, they address a lot of the needs that is in the community and that is helping to drive costs down. The ability to bring these reagents in at room temperature changes the landscape completely. Logistical challenges are make or break in this field. and being able to ship these like normal products is absolutely game changing. So yeah, that was pretty much in a nutshell how I can best describe the response to the unveiling of the NovaSeq X.
No, awesome. I mean, you're highlighting a massive feature there, which is kind of what separates this unit away from the predecessor units, is the room temperature availability of these reagents. And I know Separations in partnership with Illumina has been driving to enable genomics on the continent. How do you see this impacting everyone? Samples are sent abroad often to these powerhouse centers, and now it's with this room temperature package and transport. It really enables a whole new dynamic for capacity in Africa. Where do you see that space at the moment?
Well, okay, so you mentioned capacity. I think capacity and throughput is absolutely critical. The more data we have, the more understanding we have about the world around us. So I think that's the first thing. When you really delve deep into it, we know a lot about the world, but like any expert would ever tell you, is like the more you learn about something, the more you realize what you don't know. And so there's so much to learn. So I think driving capacity and throughput is going to give us a much better understanding of the world, the disease, our own health, and it's going to be driving change and driving progress quite a lot. I think, talk about cost, especially in South Africa and Africa as a whole. Cost is a big aspect. The per genome costs have been driven down a lot over the years. I mean, if you think about the first genome that was sequenced, it cost more than, I think it was $1 billion, right? Just to sequence the very first genome. And, that price has just come down and come down and come down. And, the advertised price of, $200 per whole human genome is outrageous, But I think it's testament to the ongoing efforts from Illumina as a company to drive progress. I mean, if you look at it in just a short time period, about 2 years ago, they launched $1,000 per genome. Little more than a year ago, they brought it down to $600 and something, and now you're looking at $200, and the progress in driving those costs down are huge enablers, right?
Yeah.
People it was prohibitive for non-developed countries to access. Now those prohibitions or that barrier to entry is completely being blown away with technology and making it accessible to us in our environment who don't have the monies of Europe and America to throw at the problem. Convenience. The convenience of dry ice shipping, that's gone, right? I mean, dry ice shipping is a headache for everyone. You've got to look at the cold chain. It needs to be re-iced and refrozen along the supply chain. Now that's all gone, right? You can just ship it at ambient temperature. Of course, yes, when you receive it, it's always good to store it in the right conditions. But just being able to ship these items makes things accessible and fast. Africa, known for its temperatures to be more elevated than other regions, this is something that is addressing that need perfectly. And then the other thing is sustainability. I mean, the amount of waste that was, part of the older technologies and the older platforms was a lot, right? I mean, yes, it was always a breakthrough at the time, but now basically your plastic waste has become something that just becomes, if you compare it, it's like a room versus a shoebox, in terms of how much waste we're talking about. And that is also, something that I think we all need to be aware of, is how to be sustainable, even with our research and all the work that we do, reducing the use of plastic and waste that we're creating. And they're addressing all of these needs simultaneously, which I think that, is not testament only to what they're trying to drive towards customers, but also as a community, and their sense of social responsibility is very high.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, this is one thing anyone who deals with logistics in Africa knows. The cost of cold chain storage is really what hampers or kind of kneecaps a lot of the development in the sector. And that is a massive shift. And also it's a massive paradigm change, because what it does do is it starts to level a bit of the footing and the ground in which to operate from, because now Africa can capitalize around certain centers of excellence focus specifically on genomics because the temperature, the cold chain factor has somewhat been taken out of that equation, and it makes it far easier now to start getting samples to those centers of excellence domestically on the continent and not just always being sent away, which brings me to the question I have for you is, I mean, this is really exciting.
Well, sorry,
I mean,
Jeff, there's another
yeah,
factor, stock holding, right? I mean, stock holding is always such a big thing. Like, if you've got items that need to be kept at like -20, -80, and have a relatively short shelf life, there's only so much you can do, so much risk as a business that you can take towards enabling, clients to receive their items quickly. But now, blown away, that problem is just, a thing of the past, provided obviously we can upgrade all the customers to the new technology as quickly as possible.
No, precisely. And I mean, we know there's not just in Africa, but throughout even Europe, there's power, energy consumptions and constraints. And the ability to know that, okay, if we have problems with power generation, there is a bit of safety factor, because that's always a critical parameter around cold chain. So it's good to know that this is the future. And like you said, the packaging and associated packaging that goes with logistic cold chain is immense and never great for the environment. So with this enablement and this Moore's law, we almost seen in that exponential phase with the cost of sequencing being driven down per human genome or whole human genome. Where's your forecast? It's always difficult to look forward in a crystal ball. I suppose if we all said, well, the cost of sequencing be able to be driven down so aggressively in the last 2 years, many would have been skeptical, but it has, which is fantastic. Where are we seeing precision medicine, focused medicine in Africa? I mean, we've got an entire genetic diversity here on the continent that there's so much insight to be drawn from the analytics of that genomic information. Where do you see the future of African genomics in the next, let's say, 2-3 years? Because we don't want to predict beyond that. It might be too ambitious.
Well, Jeff, it's a really good question. I mean, I think like up until now, the cost of sequencing has been something that has held back, the implementation of national programs to do population genomics, and with this new platform and this new technology and the new price point that we have, I think that those arguments against running those programs start to, not carry so much water anymore, because the thing is, like, it's become affordable, and the cost benefit around precision medicine and personalized care is not to be contested. I mean, we've got a lot of other things. For example, there's platforms trying to develop medicines, H3D, for example, medicines for African populations, right? Because the medicines are developed in Europe and the US, and then they mainly are designed around Caucasian populations. What about, the African populations, Asian populations, other ones that don't respond to those compounds in the same way because of their genetics, and that we need really, medicines that are really catered around the population that is needing them. So I can see that this is now going to open up way more conversations, hopefully a lot of funding towards population genomics program, because that's really where it starts. Genomics England is like really the flagship project that was initiated by Prime Minister Tony Blair back then, because he had a child afflicted by genetic disease, and he drove that agenda, quite hard, and established through the NHI this program. And they're seeing massive shifts in the cost of medicine or the cost of healthcare going down, because things are being picked up early, medicines are specific to the people being treated, and they're finding that that's more effective. And you can see that also in oncology and in other areas. So yes, if these conversations can take place, and government affairs is going to get involved in driving these initiatives and making them policy, then we can get really, look forward to our children experiencing a much better healthcare system than we did in our lives. And I think that that's the difference that we get to make with this technology and with our jobs. What we're trying to achieve globally and also specifically in South Africa is a better world for those that come after us.
No, exactly. Preventative medicine is the cheapest form of medicine. I think that's been well established. Keep patients, keep the populace healthy and happy, and you circumvent a lot of the problems that come in later stages of life. And like you said, also at the early stage, when you're doing pre-screening around genetic potential ailments that you need addressed early. Absolutely fully agreed. So I think this is hopefully a message that not only scientists will be convened amongst each other, but to lobbyists, to politicians, to anyone also in the medical aid side, where it's really about enablement. A lot of these initiatives only move forward when there's a reimbursement coverage for this. And this is an important aspect of healthcare, is sometimes the medical aids play as critical role as the technology in enabling and driving technology to the forefront and to the benefit of the patient, which is ultimately everyone's consumer if you're a medical aid. So Nicolas, any closing remarks? Because it's been wonderful to get your insights on the Illumina Genomics Forum in San Diego, and very excited to hear what else is coming down the line around the, not just genomics, but everything else in the omics and proteomics field that Separation supports.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're in an exciting space that, we get to look at and see these technologies at an early stage, and then get to dream about the potential that they carry, within our environments. As a company, we're always focused on being cutting edge through our partnerships with our suppliers. And I think that, this is a testament that, Illumina is market leader when it comes to innovation and advancing, genomics as a tool for a lot of areas. Healthcare was the primary concern during this conference, but more sustainable crops, crops that are able to thrive under water poor or high heat conditions. This is all, going to come through genomics, and how do we, feed a growing population. Other things that we had that was quite exciting last week was a big launch around bioprinting and how that can play a role, moving away from animal models for research in order to deliver data that's going to help us understand, health and cure and clinical trials in a better way. The possibility of, printing organs and having, those being transplanted will totally change the face of the world. A lot of people are there on the organ donor list and they never get a turn, and that's, heartbreaking. If you've got technology that can actually, bioprint an organ and deliver it, and it's got the same genetic material as the recipient, then you're also, navigating the organ rejection aspect, significantly better, less, treatment in terms of medicines to prevent the organ rejection. Jeff, I could talk to you for hours on areas that we're advancing things. I mean, the areas of single cell sequencing, the areas of mass proteomics, they're all going to deliver a big results in terms of improvement on our lives, hopefully in our lifetime. But the key is we need to advance the uptake and the amount of data that we're collecting as quickly as we possibly can to realize them in our own lifetimes. But it's an exciting time, and I'm super proud to be in science. The world has a lot of problems, that we have created through technology, but I see that these advances in technology are the ones that are going to help us combat those challenges that have been created through, our industrialized world. More to come. What else are we busy with? I mean, we're talking about cultivated meat, and bringing that to the fore, which is a very sustainable way of delivering protein into the diet that has a low carbon footprint or no carbon footprint. Man,
I'm looking forward to incredible field. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to making a difference, and we've got a great team that's really geared towards bringing the technologies and showcasing the possibilities to researchers and companies here locally and on the African continent. And we won't stop. We will continue to try better the world through our contributions that we can do on the commercial level.
No, 100%. I love the passion, and I'm sure we can have more discussions spotlighting that, because one thing we want to see is, and have scientists know, we're just as passionate about their projects, their research, their commercialization steps, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to solve for the same problems on the continent. And if we can just bolster the strength of Africa and its scientific area in any small percentage, 1% improvement and compounded over time, is definitely where we are always driving. And we're always so excited to see new technologies being introduced to the market, so that period between first inception to getting into Africa is minimized. It's an absolute passion of Separations. Nicolas, thank you so much for your time.
Jeff, I just want to say one last thing. I'm very happy that we get to talk on YouTube and bring out, these messages to the broad majority of people in the world, because a lot of the advancement is basically happening behind closed doors in laboratories. And, people who can drive those markets, who can basically drive investment, are the recipients of the benefits of these researchers doing their hard work. So if we can create awareness about what's out there and the programs that are happening and the ideas that are flowing around to improve everyone's life, we want the consumers to be putting pressure on the funders, the reimbursers, to apply these technologies so that they can access them quicker. So I'm really happy about this being in the YouTube space, because we need the layman, so to speak, to be talking to the doctors and the butchers and everyone around them about those new technologies. Can you tell me about cultured meat? Can you tell me about growing an organ? What about these comprehensive assays that can give me insights into diseases that haven't really even become symptomatic yet?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I think will move the needle and drive progress much quicker than can be done if policies are just driven behind closed doors. So I really want the public to get active here.
Absolutely. I mean, so many people don't even realize that $200 a genome is starting to be within reach. So that ability to deal with a service provider that can enable that testing, so that you can get some insight into what is within my genetic lineage, what is in my potential future for those around you, your loved ones. It's really moving so quickly, and the advent of technology is going to hopefully always make life better if it's implemented correctly. And thank you, Nicolas. It's been awesome to have you on, and I know we're going to be on again for more discussions to highlight and spotlight certain core technologies that Africa as a whole just needs to know more about and enable and place into the ecosystem. Thanks, Nicolas.
My pleasure, Jeff. It's been a real fun time talking to you, and I'll do it again anytime. Thank you.
Awesome.